Hello, everyone. This is Tyler Steinkamp, and I'm the agronomist for Eastern Iowa. Cover everything east of I-35 in Iowa, and today I wanted to focus on talking a little bit about response to fungicide. And the reason why response to fungicide is so important is because it really helps us determine which hybrids are going to respond best to a fungicide application. We've done a lot of testing out of our answer plots. This is a 9-year average summary of the last 9 crop seasons looking at all of these different hybrids. We had over 240 different hybrids that we tested, and it's really interesting to look at because each one of our hybrids responds differently depending on what the inputs is going into it. Okay, so for example, when you start looking at response to fungus or response to population on that top line, in 2019, there was a difference, and this is a difference of 8,000 plant population. There was a difference between 0.84 up to 21.9 bushels difference. So some hybrids only for that extra 8,000 seed only gave us a little under a bushel yield response for that. Not very economical, right? Whereas other hybrids for that extra 8,000 plant population gave us almost 22 bushels. That's the importance of looking at these response to scores. Nitrogen's the same. Nitrogen's a little bit more dramatic because of the fact that nitrogen's so important. We range from 30 up to 104. Rotation's a little bit different as well. But here with response to fungicide, we range from 5.6 to 40.4. And that's the one that we're really going to focus in on today. Okay. When you start looking at a 5.6 bushel yield advantage to having that fungicide on, it's just enough really to barely pay for that fungicide. Those low response to fungicide hybrids aren't always your best bet. Now, one thing I will give you a little caution on, if this is a corn on corn situation, that low response to fungicide hybrid may still need a fungicide. Another great example is if we have a certain disease that's coming in and it's just devastating an area. For example, in eastern Iowa last year, we had quite a bit of tar spot that came in late. Now, realistically, it came in so late it didn't do a lot of yield damage, but if that were to move in earlier, this response to fungicide may not apply. But for the rest of those situations, I really would pay attention to this response to fungicide. If you're going to spend the money to go out and make that application, I strongly recommend doing it on those hybrids that make the biggest difference. And you can see that here. We range from 5.6 bushel response up to 40.4. And so pay attention to that response to fungicide score for that particular hybrid. And now there can be a really dramatic difference in having a fungicide out in the field or not. For example, here is a picture from our 2018 fungicide trial in Mason City. Okay, so here's the untreated check here. No fungicide was applied. You can see we're starting to lose some of that stock integrity. It's really starting to die very, very quickly. Okay, next plot over. This is actually the Revysol molecule. Now, back in 2018, Revysol was coming out. It was brand new, not yet to market yet. The Revysol, a lot of you guys may be more familiar with it in the form of Veltima. It's part of the active ingredient in Veltima. You can see how nice and green it's keeping that crop canopy so that we're getting a lot better photosynthesis, which increases our overall yield potential. And you can see right down that row, whereas here we're already starting to see some stock integrity issues. So that's really the advantage of using those fungicides and being able to get more of that green plant material to maintain later in the season. We can maintain that stock integrity. Another thing to consider, guys, when you're looking at a fungicide, we also want to make sure that we're getting down deeper into the canopy so that we get full coverage of that canopy. Okay, so I always recommend, if you're going to put a fungicide on, make sure you have MasterLock with it. Because it's all about making sure that all of that fungicide that you're putting out there is actually getting down into that canopy and getting complete coverage. Okay, here's a really good video that demonstrates the difference between just having water in the tank versus having MasterLock. MasterLock's going to be on the right here. Not a lot of difference yet. But as we go, what you'll notice is in the MasterLock side, those really fine particles start to dissipate very, very quickly, whereas the water side over here, we still see all those really fine particles. The problem with fine particles, guys, is that they either drift off target, two, they evaporate before they hit the target, or three, they end up just kind of settling on top of the canopy, which doesn't do us a lot of good. We need to get that down deeper in the canopy so that we don't have that fungicide just hanging up on the top of that canopy. Another advantage you have with MasterLock is it does not contain NPE. That NPE is an active ingredient in a lot of surfactants. It can cause what's called arrested ear. You can see this is from a trial out in the answer plots here. You can see on the top, when we put an adjuvant that contains NPE, we get quite a bit of this arrested ear syndrome, whereas down here with MasterLock, we didn't have any. But guys, what this all comes down to when you're talking about difference in coverage, you always got to draw that back to yield, right? And some of our studies out in the answer plot, we were able to show that by adding MasterLock into the tank, you were able to get a 5.7 bushel yield increase over just having that fungicide alone. And that's the power of making sure that we're getting all of that fungicide down deeper in the canopy where it needs to be and getting more coverage on that overall canopy. If you have any additional questions, make sure to contact your local WinField United rep and make sure you follow up with them.